All right, what's going on, everyone? Today I have got Captain Matt Arny, or as I call him, Flounder. Don't worry, you're going to figure out why they call him that in the Navy, because in the Navy we have different call signs, and that's how it works. But we're going to take you on a journey today that kind of talks to you about what Naval Air Station Whidbey Island is, because Flounder here is the commanding officer there. And also, throughout some of his career, some of the things that he has learned, the journeys he's been on, his passion for getting people the right stuff they need to do their job, and his innovative spirit for putting his foot forward, raising his hand, and trying things to make things better. So I hope you enjoy this, and here we go. How's it going, sir?
It's great, Matt. It's great to be here. It's good to connect like this, and I'm looking forward to a great conversation today.
Fantastic. I'm excited to have you. Oh yeah, anytime you get two Matts in the room, you know it's a great time, right?
That's right.
Fantastic. So before I want to know more about Flounder, definitely. But before we get into that, help tell us who you are. You are the commanding officer out at Naval Air Station, Whidbey Island.
That's right. So I've been in this job for about 2.5 years, and it's one of the best jobs that I've ever had in the Navy. But I've had a great career. I've really enjoyed a lot of places that I've been. So yeah, I'm the installation commanding officer out here. I come from an F-14 and F-18F background as a RIO and WIZO. And I've been a couple tours on aircraft carriers as assistant navigator and operations officer. Got to serve overseas in Stockholm, Sweden as a naval attaché, and got to serve in the test environment as an operational test director on the F-14B, along with some education along the way, which has been really great. And so that's who I am. And so it's great to talk about innovation and all the good stuff going on here at Whidbey Island.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And before we get into more of the Whidbey Island, you said that you are the installation commander. For those that may not be as familiar, what's the difference between like an installation commander and a commander of a tenant commander, a unit on base there?
Yeah, so here as an example at Whidbey, we've got all the E-18G Growlers. They're both based here out of the wing, and we've got half of the Maritime Patrol Force of the Navy is based here as well as a bunch of other stuff. So all the facilities fall under me. I've got the child care, the galley, fire and emergency response, security, airfield facilities. So we run everything. And so the tenant commands come in and they do the thing that they do, and we support them in being mission ready.
Okay, that's it. So you kind of like you're running your own little city.
That's really right. You know, I've got housing and I've got the barracks, and so it really is. You know, some people call you the mayor. I took a team down to SeaTac to visit with them to talk about some things, and saw a lot of commonalities there too. You know, the SeaTac folks, they run the airport, but Alaska Airlines, United Airlines, everybody else does their thing on that tarmac and using those facilities.
That's very cool. It's probably a different kind of command than when you were doing combat ops on a carrier somewhere.
Yeah, that's right. It's different, but it's still about sailors and people, and I think the most fascinating thing for me, having all those different kinds of things, is that every 30 minutes is different, dealing with different topics, getting to understand different problems. And so it really exercises the ability to just quickly comprehend things and work with a group and with experts, because I'm not a firefighter. I'm not a childcare. I got a couple kids who test my childcare capabilities every day, but I'm not a professional childcare provider. So understanding what challenges those folks are dealing with, what the those experts in those fields are dealing with, and helping them work through those problems.
That's fantastic. That's kind of keeps you on your toes. You never know.
Sure.
You never know what's going to happen. So let's talk about Whidbey Island. So what is it that you guys do there? What happens there? You kind of talked a little bit about the growlers that were there and stuff, but where is Whidbey Island?
Yeah, that's great. So Whidbey Island is northwest of Seattle, and we're about 2 hours to downtown Seattle. And so it's on a normal day, it's cloudy right now. On a normal day, I can look out and see Mount Baker. We're right on the Puget Sound. We're part of the Navy Region Northwest, which includes Naval Base Kitsap with submarines and aircraft carriers. We've got Naval Station Everett with destroyers. and we've got NavMag Indian Island, which is a large magazine ordnance facility. And so we're the air station component, the largest air station in the Pacific Northwest for the Navy. I'm also the commander of the Northwest Training Range Complex. So in total, we've got with some of our ground training ranges, we've got about 70,000 acres of land. And then we have over 70,000 square miles of training range space from the Pacific Ocean over the Olympic Peninsula, central Washington and central Oregon. And so it's a fascinating job and a lot to it. And in addition to that, if I may, of course, we are an air station, so very air focused, but we also have the Navy Ocean Processing Facility doing underwater surveillance. We, of course, have a clinic, the Naval Medical Center over here at Oak Harbor, Fleet, the FRC, the Fleet Readiness Center, fixing all the stuff that comes off the airplanes. Yeah. We've got so a lot of other entities too that form what we call Team Whidbey out here.
Okay. Well, that's very cool. And I like the FRC component, as I come from Nav Air. So I'm very, very familiar with the FRCs. And while I have not been to Whidbey Island yet, I always heard it all the time related to the FRC and different air components happening here.
Yeah. And with the FRC thing, there's a lot of great stuff going on in FRC. And so when you get to as the installation commander, as an example, okay? So FRC's got their facilities, and we work with them on, environmental mitigations, making sure that stuff's not getting out in the environment, because we've got a very robust environmental program here. But an example comes to my mind. I go down, I hear about some issues they're dealing with. I go meet with FRC leadership, walk around their spaces, and there's a power problem in the building. There's some great contemporary equipment that we want to bring in to make our processes better on our artisans over at FRC, but the facilities don't support that. So how do we work with FRC to get the facilities to the point where these innovations can really, we can really get the ROI on these innovations?
Yeah, that's great. Well, and having that Fleet Readiness Center is that direct touch point to the fleet. It's that when things need to get fixed, boom, it's right there. So that's awesome that you see the value in that, and that you love. Like, that's what, from our time of, I think we met a few months ago, one time on a group Zoom, and then chatted after that. And then when we chatted again last week, everything I feel from you is that you are extremely passionate about what you do, who you support, and how you do it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I really have embraced the Team Whidbey concept. It takes everyone around here to make sure the airplanes are flying, make sure our sailors have got the things that they need to do their job that we rely on them to do. And so, that is a great passion.
That's fantastic. So let's talk about Flounder. What you're an air guy, and you've got a call sign of a fish from Little Mermaid.
Oh, interesting.
Oh,
maybe it's a different. Maybe it's a generational thing, Matt. But it's funny, it came up twice. One time when I was going through flight school, we lived down in Pensacola, and a good friend of mine, Eric Bach, and we used to play two-man volleyball out there on the beach. Okay. And so he would always end up in the net. I would always end up in the sand. So they called us Tuna and Flounder. But then that didn't really stick, because that was just flight school, right? So then as a little bit further on, as I got into the F-14 community, I went to join my first fleet squadron, BF-102 Diamondbacks, and my brother had been in that squadron. So he was just finished his 3 years. And so Skip had just left in May. I got there in September. And so if you go to a different generational reference, Animal House, I was a legacy. They had to take me. Wow. Your call sign's Flounder.
There you go. All right. So as you're telling that story there, you've kind of reinforced the stereotype that all pilots play volleyball, like we learned from Top Gun.
That's right. Exactly. We didn't have dog tags and sweat, but we had some fun out there, killing some time and burning off some steam.
For sure. Well, and that's what matters, because whether you're in a cockpit, whether you're doing what you do now as a base commander, whether you're on a ship, you finding that time to decompress especially these days. It's finding that
Yeah.
time. What do you do now? You said you have kids. I'm sure you do stuff with your kids to kind of decompress and
Yeah.
get away.
Yeah, that's right. My boys are 9 and 7, third and first grade. So really in the heart of the envelope. We actually pre-COVID, we picked up a camper. I grew up sailing. I would love to have a sailboat and cruise the Puget Sound and all the wonderful environment out here. But we're kind of land sailing with RV trailer and go out camping, go skiing, those kinds of activities. And just day to day around the house, they're always trying to get me to wrestle and play Minecraft, which I'm not, I'm not quite into the stuff that they like, but I enjoy being a part of their life. And so that's a big part of it for me, my wife and my kids, to have that time together. And that actually, everybody's got their own individual situation in COVID, but that's one of the things that I found in this time is really having some focused family time. And that's been a benefit.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's what a lot of people, well, the stressors are there, and a lot of people have stressors that are worse than others, for sure. And I respect
Yeah,
that. But that extra
that's right.
family time, I hope people are taking that, realizing that like you are, because that is valuable. And once we open up again, we're just going to go back to bang, 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 and we're going to be everywhere.
Yeah, so true. So true. And even in that time, you got the stressors of work. I painted a beautiful picture of our family, but there's a lot of stress that goes in that too. So that's where, taking some time to read, work out, those kinds of things for myself. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of everybody else.
Yeah, no, and that is critical right there. Especially as so many, whether it's active duty members or civilians, and a lot of the NavalX community and family are just passionate about everything they do, but that burnout is real, and you can burn yourself without taking care of yourself. So I really appreciate that you said that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's excellent. So we've talked a little bit about some of the installation stuff Whidbey Island does. One of the things that I imagine is kind of in your realm is fueling aircraft. We've talked a little bit about that. Is fueling aircraft changed now since it was 30 years ago?
From the perspective of the user, it hasn't. And so that's been one of my, when I got here, we had just come out of a period a few months before where we couldn't support the flight operations. There were squadrons having to cancel sorties because fuel wasn't getting to the aircraft. So of course there was some immediate attention brought to it. And it also goes back a few years even prior to that, where there's been an increase in the number of operations out here from both different ends of the flight line. And so, you get a P3 that lands and needs fuel, you can put a fuel truck on that thing and fill it up. You get a P8, because we've gone through and we've transitioned to the P8 aircraft. We were kind of in the early stages towards the middle of that transition at that time. And that thing's grabbing 2 fuel trucks and just chugging all the fuel down. And so that takes capacity away from the rest of the installation. So as I listened to this, and these immediate things that went in place, it put the risk onto the people, the customers. That's what it does with the immediate things you do, because you make some mitigations around the air station here, working as a team. And so as I looked at the problem, I was like, who holds the process here? You got different customers, okay, with different voices. And then I own the ramp, okay? And then FLC and DLA own the Fleet Logistics Center, NAVSUP, and the Defense Logistics Agency own the fueling process. So there was just a lot of connection that had to take place. And so, but ultimately, that process, and in the first meeting I asked this, I was like, well, how do we dispatch fuel trucks now? Well, the squadron calls in on a phone, landline, and to a dispatcher who's got a green logbook, and they've got a radio, and they prioritize in their own head, and they send fuel trucks to different stuff. I was like, you got to be kidding me. That's the way we're doing it probably 40 years ago, definitely throughout my 30 years, almost 30 years of flying. That's how we've been doing it. When I know that we can bring artificial intelligence, look in the historical data, and more efficiently dispatch those fuel trucks, also ensuring that a fuel truck has amount of fuel that airplane needs. So we're not having to make multiple trips. So there's so much room for not even innovation, just bringing in things that are out there in society to make that process better, ultimately to bring costs down, I believe, and also to make life better on those sailors who are sitting there at 11 o'clock at night. Don't know when that fuel truck's going to show up.
Yeah, well, and I think that's part of the innovation. A lot of times we think of innovation related to technology or like you're creating something new, but sometimes it's the innovative way of thinking and like, hey, there's a better way we can do this. Let's use some of this AI. I mean, I can get on my phone right now and it'll tell me how many gas stations are within a mile of me. Like
Mm-hmm.
if we don't have some kind of something that we can use, or even I don't have a car this fancy, but I know there are cars that exist out there. You can get on your phone and see how much gas is in your car. You're telling me we can't do that for
Yeah,
the military? I
so
mean,
true.
that kind of thing would be incredible.
So true. And so as I look at that, I'm like, okay, there's so much to be able to do here. And you can't tell me that there's some like logistics outfit somewhere in DoD that's figured out something like that. So how do we
Yeah.
pilot things and scale them rapidly across with everybody's got their own little rice bowls. And so, hey, my project's better than the others. But also one of the other things that leads me to is that when I was studying, did a MBA through Darden University a few years ago after my squadron command when I was OPSO on the ship and getting ready to go out to Sweden. And there was a lot of great information in that. And one of them that I pulled out of that was the early adopter versus the first mover. We're not going to be a first mover, especially at the installation level. Okay. But as long as we're in touch with industry, in touch with opportunities out there across DoD, getting connected to those things, then we can try to be an early adopter. Early is probably very lowercase, maybe 6.6 pitch font, but at least an adopter of these things to try to make life better on our sailors and be more efficient in our readiness.
Yeah, and that's incredible. How important is it to you as not only a Navy captain, but a base commander, someone who's flown, someone who's done a lot of these different things in your career? How important is it to you to have those early adopters throughout the Navy?
So yeah, it's great. I can't say, we're never going to be a Google or something like that. And we don't need to be, right? There's a certain point where we do need structure. We do have a culture of that, but we also need a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship as well. And so we can do that. And especially we can tap into the resources that are our people who are really interested in those things and try to create the space for them to do that. And that's really what it is. When I was in squadron command, there's not a lot of space. You really need more transactional. You can take a little bit of transformation, but here at the installation command, I've found that there's more opportunity to try to be transformational and creating the space so that those folks can get out there, they can try things, they can spend some time connecting, but ultimately, we're getting the job done.
Yeah, and that's actually part of our first interaction about a year ago or so, maybe a little less, when we had that AI event that NavalX kind of hosted, and then within minutes you were calling NavalX folks like, "Hey, I want to get on some of that. Let's throw some of that experimentation, innovation. We want to be a part of that." And
Yeah.
I've always appreciated that about you, is you just want to put your foot forward and give it a shot.
Yeah. And that's, it's putting your path in the opportunity for innovation. We're not going to create it here, but getting out there and putting ourselves in the path, getting the message out on what our challenges are, and getting around to figure out what those challenges that the workforce, the people are experiencing. So then we can take those and get them out there. Yeah, that was a great, and, I spent my whole career in this bureaucratic organization and very transactional. And I see stuff like I joined that webinar and I see that, and it was just energizing to hear the conversation going on, see the kind of networks and connectivity we can create. And so, yeah, I posted that video on LinkedIn as I was watching. I was like, I got to post something right now about, and as I said then, we still have the same problem. These are not necessarily the sexy big things that Big Navy is really working on, like Sailor 2025 and dashboards for managing people and those kinds of things. Those are very important, and we need to make those advancements. But from the flight line and the deck plate level, there's some things that aren't sexy, but they're easily, I think, relatively easy to get after.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I remember that video. We're in the middle of this, for those that aren't aware, NavalX held this big AI event a few months ago, 6, 8 months ago. We're in the middle. It's still going on. And I'm getting notifications that we just got tagged online from Captain Arny. And here he is posting a video during the event. And that's exactly what NavalX is trying to do. We are just trying to create the conversations, connect people to the right people, which I believe we kind of did. And you guys kind of got involved with a little bit of your own challenge. And can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we threw a couple challenges out there once we started getting those connections, which is important, which is another thing. When you stereotype the military, I'm the commanding officer of the base, I can go around and give orders because I know everything. That's not at all how it works. It's so much more of a consensus, figure out the problems, but also not only that, the stereotype is you got to work up your chain, and there's certainly, you got to keep the chain advised, tell them what the problems are, because solutions can come. But also it's that democratization of the space, so that we can use things like LinkedIn and other connecting platforms to draw those in. So out of that, like you said, I had a whole bunch of people that were contacting me through LinkedIn, through my email. It was great. And so then we got into this process on visitor control centers. All right, sorry, to cut to the point. Yeah. Visitor control centers. Who here on this has not been to a visitor control center? And you go in there, and this is the pass an ID. You go in there and you're like, I just need to do this one transaction. And you're sitting there waiting. You don't know where you are in the queue. You don't know how long it's going to take you. And you don't even know if you think you have all the right information with you, but there's a way to fix that. And it's out there. You go to a pharmacy, you know what number you are, they're starting to give you queuing times. Certainly if you go to Disney, they're the best example, at least in my studies, on queuing theories and making the experience better. We're never going to be at Disney, but we can bring some of those things in. And so, but the problem that had been identified here at Whidbey was the process was creating a cost on FLC. And they came to us and said, we're spending $55,000 a year. We think we can articulate at least $55,000 a year just because of that process. Yeah. And so then it gets to, okay, we identify the problem. And so the Avenger process, which we were introduced to, it was really great. In the end, we've kind of finished that process. Do we have a much better system here that has adopted all those technologies? No, we don't. But the good thing about that process is we create the space to go down that road, learn a lot, connect with people, and create some solutions that incrementally make it better, while we also kind of serve up the platter of, we really think this needs to be piloted, and we're happy to do it here.
Yeah, well, and I think it speaks to what you spoke to earlier about putting yourself in that opportunity. So you may not have changed anything yet, but your team is kind of more ready now to when it is possible, and when that does come, you guys can jump on it and be ready to go to pilot it out.
Yeah, that's right. And I really appreciate, all the people who reached out to me, both in the in DOD, in the Navy, and in industry. And, it'd be one thing if I was able to just take that as a full-time job and take it on, but I can't. We're an installation of we got 8,700 active duty personnel on the base, 2,100 civilians and contractors, families. In that time, we've had a lot of other, housing issues and all that kind of stuff. But at least I believe it's important enough that I can spend some time, learn some things from those people, and make connections, create an environment of some teams working together, and try to learn as much as we can.
That's incredible. So you have a very different vision than a lot of people, and I think you probably wouldn't get this until you are maybe a base commander or a mayor, somebody that is responsible for all these different kinds of things. You've had, and how long have you been base commander there?
About a little over 2.5 years.
2.5 years. Do you have a story or something that has just inspired you or something that just sticks out as something cool or something that's happened during your time there?
Oh boy. Where do we start? It's well, I've got a search and rescue unit. They work directly for me. And if you want to talk about taking an H-60 helo with a crew of true professionals, highly trained, going out to pull people off of cliff sides and mountains, and doing all that kind of stuff. But interestingly, even them, and they're a good example. I'm not a helicopter guy, but I learn a lot of what they're doing by talking to them and finding out what their challenges are. And then going out there, I can go fly with them because, what's a direct deployment? What's it take for a crew to do a one-wheel landing or a confined area landing? All these kinds of things. I had no idea, but I go out there and experience it. And more than that, in this case, it was going up at the high altitude in the mountains, 8,000 feet in the snow, trying to work through like what a rescue looks like, and seeing how their gear is weighing them down, seeing how it's not right for them, and then taking that problem and then advocating for getting them new gear, not designing new gear, but there's plenty of great mountain rescue gear out there, and just working through the bureaucracy to try to get the right gear for these folks doing their specific mission.
Yes,
and
that's fantastic.
Yeah. And that's really, two aspects. As I was thinking, leading up to this, there's two aspects of how I would describe, I think, my opinion, the most appropriate leadership here. That's strategic, laying out the vision of the future. NASWE 2035 is what a lot of people around here probably get tired of me saying, but what does NAS Whidbey Island NASWE 2035 look like? What is that now? We're in 14 years from now.
Yeah.
It's important to understand what our concept of that looks like. I see refueling trucks connected through 5G, connected to some kind of brain that is dispatching based on historical information and analysis, flight schedules automatically input from the commands in a very smart way. And most importantly, providing feedback to those maintenance control folks so that they see, hey, your truck's going to arrive in 12 minutes, or your truck's going to be in 27 minutes, and you got these people online, or whatever it is. So the feedback's getting to our customers. So what's that vision look like? NASWE 2035. And then also the advocacy part, identifying those things, because how many times do we say, I wish I was the, king of something and I could make some decisions. Well, I'm not the CNO. I'm not going to be, and I'm not going to get an opportunity to make decisions at that level. But there are some things that I can shape to make some incremental changes to improve life and align us towards that long-term vision.
And that is so inspiring to hear someone at your level, that's where you're thinking. Because I oftentimes I talk to a lot of people. It's kind of my job.
Yeah.
And, I hear a lot.
I enjoy hearing those conversations too. I learn a lot through those.
Well, and that's what's fun is not only do I talk to people, I actually record my conversations. And so like I learned so much from so many different people, and doing the podcast, doing the videos, not something I planned to do. It just kind of happened. And maybe it's because I got sweet hair or something. I don't know. But what I've learned is a lot of people actually, some don't have that mentality. Some have that, I'm not going to be able to change anything, so I'm not going to try. And it's not obviously I'm in the innovation space with NavalX. And so I see more of the other side where you are of, hey, I'm a dude clear down here or gal clear down here, but yeah, sure. Let's try changing things at the Pentagon.
Yeah.
And so you realizing that you do have the ability to, and you are in a position to affect something at your command, at your base.
Yeah.
And that's what inspires me about you.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, but it was through, some of the case studies that I got to do at Darden through the MBA, and also Navy postgraduate school. I did the Navy Senior Leadership Seminar, some of those same things condensed in there. And it's really thinking about it from an economics perspective of working on the margins. The big things, like we've got about $500 million of construction projects going on here at the base in different phases. New hangar that I'm looking at right over here. We've got support facilities for the P-8. We've got all kinds of things going on. Those things are going to keep rolling down the track. I need to make sure that those, and I got great people. It's not me. I mean, I got great people. I went away for 10 days in January, camping and skiing and stuff. Airplanes kept flying, things kept working. There's a great team here that does stuff, but it's finding those areas on the margins that we can really influence things. We took the childcare problem, across the enterprise, we got 9,000 kids on the wait list across the enterprise. But here locally, we typically see about 180 to 200 on the wait list for that preschool age childcare. And so I took, at the beginning of COVID, I did a little design thinking. certificate course and kind of signed up, got a team together to take a deep dive into childcare here, demand and capacity. And so it was fun. You know, it was taking some time periodically, working with community stakeholders, bringing small group discussions in. Of course, that was right at the beginning of COVID. So
Yeah.
what a good design thinking process would have looked like, bring everybody in a room, whiteboards, sticky notes, mind mapping, all that stuff. We had to try to figure out how to do that as best we could virtually. But I think we came up with some good stuff. It's a hard nut to crack, but at least we can try to make some progress on it.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I think you spoke to earlier as well. And you just hit again is you're not going to solve it right now, but you're probably going to make something easier for somebody.
That's right.
And, and you seem to be the kind of guy, the kind of leader that just wants to make people's jobs easier and wants to take care of them. And so you've had a career across lots of things. You've been on ship, you've been on shore, you've been, now Rio, you said you were Rio. Is that the backseat guy? I'm not.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not a pilot guy. So
that's right. So Top Gun, the Goose, except, you know, I managed to survive all those traps and flight hours and everything else. But yeah, the radar intercept officer, as I put it, doing all the computer games, all the comms and navigation. I got a chauffeur to take me around where I need to go to shoot the missiles and drop the bomb.
there you go. It's probably a little bit more expensive Uber than most people are used to.
Yeah, well, and then you look at like the F-35 out there. I call that a single seat because you know, it's a single seat Wizzo cockpit. I mean, there's so much stuff that we're bringing in to take the burden off of the pilot as they're doing all the things that platform can do. But certainly the Tomcat and the F-18F was my experience. It was just, they were great platforms for missionized, working as a crew together and doing great things.
That's fantastic. You've had quite the career. Are you still staying in for 30 more? Are you going for CNO next? Is that your next site or?
That would be a deep pull, but no. So this is going to be it. It's been an extraordinary career. I've been around the world. I've worked with great people, lots of places, and no better place to jump off than here at Whidbey Island, Team Whidbey. It's extraordinary. Still setting up some good stuff for the future, but July 9th, that's going to be the change of command, and we're going to head off and get a puppy and figure out what we're going to do next.
That's part of the retirement plan, is getting a puppy?
That's right. People ask me, what are you going to do next? I'm going to get a puppy, and we're going to work through what's next.
Well, getting a puppy can be a lot of change. You got to give a lot of focus to it.
Yeah, that's
and such.
That's right. That's right. Boys have been begging for a puppy, and I'm right there with them, and we're going to have a good time.
Fantastic. That's great. So throughout your career, is there anything that has stood out as maybe from another leader, or just a lesson that you've learned that maybe early on that you've tried to implement or carry yourself now that you're a leader?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I've worked for so many good leaders and so many bad leaders. And so certainly, as we all do, we pull in the lessons we see across the board. I mean, I got a few people flashing through my mind, but the one that really comes to my mind was Ambassador Azita Raji. I was the naval attaché in Sweden. And what I found with her when she came in, she had a fascinating background and how she ended up in that position. But whenever I was in meetings, first of all, she created a very inclusive environment. She was very good about listening to different perspectives. And in particular, she would look at the people who kind of hadn't talked and said, what is your thought on that? And so I really appreciated that. And then she was able to kind of take all that information in and drive the team towards a decision. So that's one that as I look in meetings that I have, when I find somebody who hasn't maybe talked, maybe they truly don't have everything to say, but at least creating the environment where they can say something.
That's fantastic. That's excellent. And I've never had that issue, unfortunately, because I am an extreme extrovert.
That's right.
I will always raise my hand, but I know there are a lot of people out there that probably appreciate that.
Yeah, certainly.
So definitely. So we've talked about a lot of different things. Is there anything else you want to tell us about you, about Whidbey Island, your future puppy? Anything else that you've learned or want to share?
Well, I'll tell you, two things. One is, when we talk about when I came in, and I really was trying to understand the context of what this was, and I'm reading on things and trying to understand what's going on out there in the world. Like 5G was this thing. I was just like, okay, what is this 5G thing? And I certainly started to understand that there was a lot of opportunity there, even though I don't know what actually makes 5G happen. And so as I laid out what I thought the vision of this place would be like, I was like, well, this is a great place for 5G. And then I saw that DoD came out with their priorities, and I was disappointed we weren't in that first tranche. But we're in the second tranche. We got a great team that's working it. They're going to have some RFPs out there in April timeframe, I think. And we're looking to have 5G, a private 5G network on the installation to do some experimentation with some use cases starting this fall. So I'm excited about those kinds of things. But it's not because I created that. It's because we're just getting out there, voicing those thoughts, and that's all good. But the most important thing about all these things are the people here. We got extraordinary people, air traffic controllers, security, fire and emergency personnel, all kinds of people out here. Great team, bringing in, collaborating with people on other great teams to do good things. So that's really, I think, the part that really invigorates me the most is just working with all the great people doing great stuff here at Team Whidbey.
That's fantastic. That's excellent. And I think any good leader is going to reference the people just like you have. Because at the end of the day, technology, like we learned today, can come in and out, but people are what make it happen.
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of those people have influenced me and inspired me. Guys like yourself, Matt, Whit, Brett, great people out there who are just trying to make a difference. And so I really appreciate being connected with you guys. And I really enjoy watching what you guys are doing and trying to pull as much of that in here as we can.
And well, hey, you know us. I mean, you start talking to us, and we're going to start throwing things that direction. So, I mean, you experienced that firsthand.
That's right.
Last year. So all you got to do is raise your hand, and we'll be there.
That sounds good to me. I encourage anybody out there listening, raise your hand, get out there, and it's going to be great.
Definitely fantastic. Well, sir, I really appreciate having you on. It's thanks for sharing your story with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matt. Keep doing that good stuff, taking the sledgehammer to the Pentagon. And you too can affect change.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And folks, thanks for tuning in to learn all about Naval Air Station, Whidbey Island, Captain Matt Arny, or Flounder. And you kind of heard where that came from for him. And an amazing leader inside the Navy who really cares about people, his passion for helping people and for trying something new and putting their foot forward. So again, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Have a great day.